I'm Chris, and I'm from Łódź, and I wanted to talk a bit about the difference between solutions and software. I think Poland and Central Europe in general has a very unique opportunity. There's a lot of tech talent, but we seem to be still building much more software than products or solutions. And I think we're not spending enough time talking about self-organizing teams, context, and alignment. And this is the whole reason I wanted to initiate this topic. So I guess you see my slides as well. So just a few words about myself. I'm an engineer by training, builder by passion. I've built teams, products, and processes. And I started my first company very early, so I was an early entrepreneur at 16, and then Microsoft made us do it and start the company. And since that time, I've been around the IT world for more than 15 years. I've started on the way in Vedo, which is a software house that helps companies to scale. And I had also a chance to screw up very badly a product company together with my business partner, but we still work together, so real friendships survive also companies that fall apart. And I very quickly realized that technology is a leverage, and it's also a responsibility. So if you know how to change things around with technology, you also need to think about how do you use this responsibility, because you can put the leverage in different places and you can place your focus on different things. And I'm definitely not a very good coder. I realized that quite quickly, not a very good engineer, but I've decided to focus on building self-sufficient teams and imagine a company that would be created of self-sufficient teams that could then just scale the vision of tech transforming what is around us in a positive way. So I believe some people wrote that content is king, but I really believe that context is king. It's the first ingredient to have self-sufficient teams. Context, and I will use this word a lot in the next few minutes, is the tool that puts decision-making in the hands of the right people. So the ones usually that are closest to the action. What's context? Context is, if you look up in the Oxford definition, that's just setting in which the circumstances are fully understood. If you look at the definition I've made up, it's the map of a reality in which stakeholders are immersed in. So this is the whole surroundings of the reality people usually live and breathe by. And I guess starting any project, you have to make up your mind on a scale from micromanagement to management of by context. Where do you want to be on that scale? And in my reality, it's on one side body leasing as a service, basically. On the other end of the scale, it's trusted advisory. And in this world of services and consulting, you either sell time and headcount, or you actually make produce value by providing very specialized knowledge. And the way that the sweet spot for myself was to be somewhere around 3/3 of the way. It's very hard to be a trusted advisor, and it's very hard to scale this up further. But I believe that adding context and making sure that all people that are working with certain projects and products are equipped to this context, they're able to move very quickly to a trusted advisor landscape. And for me personally, there's so many different contexts. If you look at those definitions that we talked about before, hundreds of contexts in every company. The goals, the incentive schemas, relationships between people, competitors, personal aspirations, past good and bad experiences, market landscape, and many more. So there's millions of pieces of context to pick up. And Well, for the self-organizing teams, one needs to create an environment which people can feel safe and be fully present. And then if you're a team that wants to understand the complex context of the client you're working with or the project you're starting, then this safe space is actually a prerequisite. And then we also live in a very interesting times in many ways, that there are so many good tools to actually help dissipate, to spread this context in a frictionless way. We probably all know Slack and Notion, but think of them not as knowledge centers, but as primarily context aligning tools. And with a team that is composed of people willing and ready to bring themselves whole to work, so be fully present at work, and just using very simple tools, that's the whole foundation to actually think about spreading context. Spreading context is a bit, I call it cross-pollination, because it requires conscious effort, and conscious effort means that there's actions that often feel like a waste of time. When you're spreading context, you're repeating yourself, you're asking others to summarize meetings, you're pushing for updates on Slack, you're doing a lot of things that seem to be not producing that much value on the first instance. So the question is, who will be the one to be responsible that this context is being shared and spread? And I guess for every organization it's a bit different, but we figured out that product owner actually is the role in our teams that is best suited to help to spread the context, both from the customer side and between the teams. And of course, all team members are involved somehow in this cross-pollination and then spread the context, but sometimes it requires a bit of energy and a bit of effort. And every time this happens, it's on the shoulders of a product owner to make sure everyone is equipped with the context. I'm curious, you can just write a few lines on the chat if you ever thought about spreading context, cross-pollination of context in a conscious way, and if yes, what roles in the organization were responsible for that? Was that product owners, scrum masters, project managers, product managers? I'm curious to hear from you as we go along. So how to start extracting context? Let's assume we have a team that is equipped with the tools and the knowledge and the mindset to extract context from a customer or from a new process, new product. How to start extracting that? Well, creating software is an iterative process, and you probably all know that, and you've experienced that yourselves. And we often forget, I guess, that the number of iterations that is needed to create software or to create a release or a piece of an MVP is dependent not only on the complexity, but also on the starting point, and also on how well we define the ending point. But the starting point is usually the moment where you can go very, very wrong. I mean, if it's very crucial to define the starting point, even if there are pressures, external pressures to do that, to skip over that. So discovery workshops are not a new concept. There are many ways to do that through design thinking or in any other way. I guess every organization has its own way to do it. But the next time you plan a workshop that is focused on defining something, think about this as a context discovery workshop. So I usually break this up into 3 sessions, and that could be a full day session or just half a day sessions. Depends on the complexity of the idea behind this. And in every session, there's a certain goal to be done there. So if we move from session 1 to session 2 to session 3, in the first one, this is about ideas, and the second one is about synthesis, and the third one is about the software itself. So this comes quite late, notice that. And so it feels like expanding the idea first, and then it's contracting, cutting bits out, and then solidifying it. So sometimes if this is a product or a company discussion in a broader sense, we talk about strategy, so the direction, and then ideas how to get this. So it's kind of a tactical approach, and then at the third session, the details of the execution. So for all the fans of Simon Sinek out there, it's a bit a different take on why, how, and what. But there is a question that is overlooked, I guess, and I wanted to stress this as many times as possible. If context is the water we're immersed in, there's nothing to tell us about the direction we want to swim in. And when we think of transitioning from software to solutions, the most difficult and the most important question is, how will we know that we are successful with anything we're trying to build? And well, be honest with yourselves. Did you have that conversation with the stakeholders beginning your current project you're involved in? Did you talk about how will we define that we are successful? So I wanted to spend a bit of time on talking about 4 sets of metrics that slowly converge on the answer to this question, on the right way of finding success criteria. And I will start with those easiest to calculate, but that bring the least value. So we have a set 1, which is, I call them naive metrics because they're super easy to calculate. They're very transparent and usually are meaningless in a broader context because we can incentivize any of them and, well, we'll break it. I mean, they will stop being meaningful. For example, imagine if we incentivize increasing velocity or increasing the story points burn down, then magical things happen with the story point perception. If we say, okay, what our goal is to increase velocity with every sprint, then the velocity will increase, but the question is, will the amount of work really increase? Or, well, if we prioritize percent of completion, then probably the old Pareto rule will be very obvious and apparent because we'll run through 70% of things in quite a short time, and then the remaining 30% might take days or months to complete. And I guess the most worrying metric is lines of code written. If any programmer, any developer is with me here today, then I guess he'll smile as I do, that this is a metric that will not give anything, any meaningful information. So that's set 1, naive metrics, very easy to calculate, very quick to calculate, but they will not probably be a good alignment strategy. Then the second set is a bit closer. It reflects some kind of state of reality, but I call them vanity metrics because they're focused on making someone feel good. So they're a bit harder to calculate, but they're still very easy. And the question is, what does this number actually reflect or gives us what kind of information it tells us about the usage of the product or the success of this product? There's a great difference between active users and one-time users, for example. And if there's, it's quite often that in bigger companies, there's a need for an application to be counted as successfully deployed, to have 100% of employees log in at least once. But again, this does not reflect any truth about the reality we're working with. Because, well, large companies can find ways to make everyone log in, but still that's not the perfect metric. So let's move to the third set. So let's diverge even further. And the third set I call the meaningful metrics, and those are much harder to calculate because they require a lot of context, the context we've been talking about. They're usually quite difficult to tinker with. Therefore, they're mostly objective. If the product or the project you're working with is pre-launch and the team has a good understanding of the context and the business value, you might try estimating business value points together with the stakeholders or within the team. And so this is trying to compare different user stories or different tasks by the significance of business value delivered. And the priority points is just trying to subtract business value from the story point value, and then you get priority points, which helps to arrange things in the backlog. So business value point estimation, again, for teams equipped with the context, should be fairly easy, and it brings a metric which is, well, of course subjective, but it gives you something before the launch. And post-launch, it's really important to focus, to align teams around a subset of 1 to 3 KPIs that stem from the top priority of the client. And I guess some people might argue that spending the time to involve and submerge the team, the development team, in those KPIs, especially if they come from an external provider, from an external company, might not be a good time investment. But I think the opposite. If a team is committed and focused on helping to deliver a product, they actually need a way to align themselves, and they will be making millions of small decisions anyways. And if they're not micromanaged, they need some kind of a way to align themselves, and success criteria are, I guess, the best way to do so. And so if the top priority is acquisition channel through referrals, for example, then Net Promoter Score, NPS, or any other customer satisfaction metric is super important to be focused on. For any SaaS product, monthly recurring revenue or any equivalent is interesting to see how it changes. In products that rely on a low margin or in a low margin market, lifetime value or customer acquisition costs usually bring a lot of insight. Also, showing how those metric is calculated is very important, because it opens heads of people to understand what's the lifetime value of the customer, what's the typical average behavior of a customer or user. And customer acquisition cost also opens a discussion about conversion and places where the acquisition cycle breaks, for example. The teams make hundreds and hundreds of decisions throughout every sprint, and they really need something to align. And they'll either use their intuition, or they will try to benefit from the KPIs or the goals that are set, and I call them success criteria. So the best set is personalized success criteria, but they are always product specific, and they come from only context-aware teams, and that's why the word context has been used here so many times. I would like to share 3 examples, quick examples from the real life, so that all of this becomes more tangible. And the first one is Biletem. So it's a solution for selling public transportation tickets in now 30 cities in Poland. It was given to us by a very high level abstraction. So the owners from Sweden came to us and said, please build a mobile ticketing machine. Lots of ownership passed in the hands of people of the team. And this is a tough one, because the super low margin world is just few cents per single ticket sold. Users don't spend much time with the service, but it breaks, then oh boy, things happen. If you buy a ticket and it's not there, then your rating on the stores will just crazily go down. And it's also a good thing to prioritize your stakeholders. Who is the most important stakeholder? On one hand, we have public transportation authorities that hold in their hands the ability to sell tickets, and they want to have as much data as possible. Why do I need to provide my home address when I buy a monthly ticket, for example? And on the other hand, there are passengers who just want to have a super experience. And in this case, the stakeholder, the passengers as stakeholders prevailed, and this was the focus of the team. So success criteria can evolve over time. With Biletem, there are three phases of growth. The phase one is the geographical growth from 0 to 30 cities, and it's about creating habits. It's watching the percentage of returning users, and this gives the team. This focuses the team to think about notification, one-click repurchases, adding Apple Pay, Google Pay, setting up reminders, coming back, re-engaging the users that stopped buying. Then the other aspect was there to be conscious in the low margin world about the cost. So return on investment per city, how expensive and complex is getting a city online, so doing the onboarding of the city, and in how many months this is expected to pay back. And the third part in this phase one was responding super quickly if anything breaks. So ticket volume on customer care requests, app ranking in the stores, and if we're automating the most common requests and issues, because then we can save a lot of time there. And the phase two was going deeper into the markets, so penetrating the cities for user base, acquiring new users in cities that Biletem was already present, and the set of success criteria shifted to lifetime value and average revenue per user, because this gave a team and every stakeholder a sense of the budget. And then, this created discussions such as, could we do a give a ticket for free and get one free to share the app? Was that feasible if we can incentivize other passengers or other new users to join by referral, for example? Then the other metric that was important was cost per install, because it was easier to calculate than cost per user, per active user. And then a conversion discussion, which ended up actually revamping the whole application, but in a very, very small and subtle ways. And because the conversion was tracked along the whole user journey. And one of the discoveries out there was that the strongest correlated metric with that conversion was also the time needed to complete the purchase end to end. So that became something that Biletem started excelling at. So being one of the quickest apps to actually close the purchase cycle. And this is still an ongoing journey. And phase three is still in the making. So I guess there's something to share in 2021. Jumping to the second example, Pixelmondo is a visual effect company. You might have seen some of their small productions out there. They do dragons, spaceships, lightsabers, and stuff. And they came to us with a very common request that you probably recognize as well. So we have this pile of Excel spreadsheets. Please turn them magically transmute them into a collaborative web application that will just make everything easier. So after 3 days in Los Angeles, what we understood is that basically the main problem was understanding the gross margin on every project, so on every production, on every series they were making, and minimize the delay on the gross margin. So how many days does it take for this data to be live? So how many days it will take me to see the actual gross margin, and how outdated is it already? So we managed to bring this down to a matter of days, because this, especially in COVID times, allows companies to make very, very quick decisions around the projects they're making. And the old joke is, what's worse than a small unprofitable project? The answer is, of course, a big unprofitable project, right? And the last example out there is a collaboration with Swedish Agriculture Ministry, and it's a marketplace that enables farmers to implement soil regenerative practices, and businesses, climate-aware businesses, to support that, purchasing carbon dioxide that is stored in the process in the healthy soil. So actually, one of the most profound uses of technology, and something that I'm personally very proud of, because a marketplace platform can actually contribute to storing tons of CO2 in the ground and regenerating farmland. And then the success criteria here was the one that I already mentioned, which feels very strange because how can you place on a programming project a goal that says, okay, our goal, our success criteria is the tons of CO2 that is stored away. And then, but the team took on the challenge, and they've actually cut this success criteria into sub-success criteria, because the tons of CO2 sequestered depend on number of farmers that were successfully onboarded. Then the number of farmers that joined the program depends on the conversion, so the onboarding success rate. So how many of those farmers got stuck in the process? And one of the most important factors was automating any geographical data. So automating inputting of their fields and areas and crops and all of that, which was done through government XML files. And then it all just comes back to top level. So from that, the team is still engaged in watching the CO2 sequestered, and their focus is to create this tool and platform with this goal in mind, this high-level goal in mind. So what are the main challenges, just wrapping up? So what are the main challenges of this beyond software and moving to solutions? Well, I think what I'm finding the most difficult and what I'm focused on as a founder is four things. First is building teams with people that want to take ownership. And I feel that I already have a privilege of working with people that fall in love with project after project, product after product. But I guess the hardest part is scaling that and having more people on board that actually are ready to open their hearts in such a way. Setting the bar for the projects we start and we work with, so putting a pressure on sales to actually be committed to projects that make a difference and bring long-lasting, sustainable, positive change in the world. And then encouraging everyone on the team to ask the difficult questions. How will we be successful? How do we know we got there? And this often means challenging the customers to answer those hard questions. And I can just summarize with a call to spread the context and align the minds of people and the hearts of people with those success criteria. And yeah, that's, I guess, a good point to wrap up. And I'm open for any questions. Feel free to reach out, ping me on LinkedIn. Happy for any feedback. Feedback is the most beautiful gift one can always get. And thank you guys for participating. And let's see if we have any time for questions, or should we be wrapping this up? Do we have any questions? And if organizers are with me, do we have any time, or should we be wrapping up the session? And I just wait a minute for the questions. I know there's someone writing on chat. Okay, regarding using NPS for meaningful metric, there is a product that has low NPS, but user is still in love with them. What do you think about that? Yes, I mean, I think that NPS, so Net Promoter Score, actually should be regarded in the literal sense. So how willing you are to refer that. So if referral channel is a channel you want to explore, then you should be caring about the high NPS. But if you care about user engagement, you might have low NPS, but still users that are ambassadors and just love the product, but don't feel comfortable in sharing it. So that's for put. George, what is one of your strategies to keep your engineers engaged with the product you are building? An excellent question. So I would tackle that in two ways. One is you need to know what type of people you want in the organization. You need to know how do you actually find people that fit the values you believe in, or be aware of those values. And Vedo actually attracts people that value their ownership of what they're building, so that they are actually in control of what they do, and they have influence over the product, and that keeps them engaged. But on the flip side, it means that we cannot take projects that we cannot have influence on. We need to be regarded as partners, and every time this partnership breaks, we see a huge disengagement in the team. So that's that's my way of thinking about it. Of course, that's a whole discussion for a whole BarkCamp talk, I guess. Wojtek, problem with NPS is the same as with writing app reviews for the 0.02% app it does. How you encourage users to do this? Well, I'm not an NPS expert by any means, and I guess I'm not the right person to ask how to encourage users to write NPSs. So, Wojtek, I guess there are people smarter than me to answer this one. Okay. Any other questions in your mind, guys? Anything I can try to access? Any feedback perhaps you want to share? Anything that surprised you or you found relevant? Thank you, Butput. Okay, I guess that's it. Thank you guys for participating. Enjoy the rest of the product camp. Hope you'll make most out of those 3 days. And thank you for joining. Please connect on LinkedIn or share feedback in other ways. I'm accessible, and see you around. Bye-bye.